Should you buy God of War 3 in 2021? God of War 3 was the highly anticipated sequel to the fantastic God of War 2 and is arguably the best from the original trilogy of God of War games. For myself, I played this game after playing the fantastic follow-up to this game, being 2018's God of War, and I thought I'd miss certain things from the 2018 game in modernization that would lead me not to enjoy God of War 3 as much as I'd like. Somehow it turned out to be the opposite. Many features, combos, items, and abilities from the third installment of the franchise turned out to be features that I adamantly wished were in the 2018 soft reboot of the franchise, meaning I'd absolutely had a gigantic blast with this game. Without further ado, let's see whether the game is still worth buying in 2021, almost 12 years after its initial release. Like always, there will be no spoilers in this section. I won't be talking about the game's narrative in the contextual space of the second God of War either. Instead, I'll just relay a few themes and the main basis in which the game's narrative weaves to create a compelling and well-written story. Like the last two games, Kratos is here to kill some more gods, but he's more furious, angered, and more powerful than he was ever before to enact his revenge, which I'll also not say why, because although a slight spoiler, I'd still want you to derive the most out of the game's narrative as possible. It's a really good story. Maybe not as good as the 2018 God of War game in terms of its direction and how well written its story is, but it's the culmination of every event that Kratos went through in the first two God of War games and creates a narrative that is a gigantic finale to all of that, which eventually leads us into God of War 4. I really do enjoy the story of this game. It's such an amazing contrast to see how Kratos was before he had a son, being more brash, and he's pretty much angry throughout the entire game. It really makes you feel like a god killer, and that's something that no other video games can really offer to their players. It's such a momentous level in which it portrays itself to go, and I love it a lot. The game's so much darker in tone, pacing, and overall the narrative goes in a direction that would seem absolutely absurd in the definitive spaces of the fourth game, and I think that's a really good thing. It shows us the development of Kratos and how much he really changed from this game to the 2018 game. Quickly, the soundtrack, as fantastic or even better as God of War 4, I dare say. Instead of the more subtle and ambient tracks of the fourth game with some awesome themes mixed in there, God of War 3 does not stop with the action, which means its themes are constantly furious. And I love the soundtrack in this game more than any other game in the franchise thus far. You are truly the God of War, and the game embodies this notion through its soundtrack alone, which when matched with the narrative and gameplay, creates a product that makes you truly feel like the killer of gods, who delivers salvation to all those that have wronged him. The gameplay of this game is extremely different to God of War 4, but is similar to that of previous installments, and the game's gameplay and combat is focused around a combo-based combat system, with the main weapon being the incredibly versatile Blades of Exile, as well as various other weapons that are collected throughout the game from the various gods that you hunt down, which adds to the diversity in which the game's combat system has. And I think this was a fantastic addition that truly added another layer of complexity to the way that you approach the combat within the game itself. It also uses so many damn quick time events that can be annoying at times and a little outdated, but they don't interrupt the immersion or experience of the game at all, but it's used at very crucial moments when trying to finish off a boss or a really powerful foe while on the battlefield. But other than that, it doesn't come up too much to the point where it creates this layer of annoyance that many games with QTEs seem to mutter up through the redundant use of the mechanic altogether. But this game doesn't suffer from an issue like that. The player also has abilities that are not available in the next installment of the franchise, being 4 completely unique and well-made magical attacks, as well as a power enhancing ability which gives the player options to alternative combat options that can be utilized to mix up the combat and make it a lot more interesting, which is also really well embedded into the game as well. The game, like its predecessors and something the franchise is known for altogether, does have a lot of puzzles, some more annoying than others, but I honestly do think the puzzles in this game are a lot more diversified than that of the fourth game, and it takes many unique turns that make it not too annoying to approach each of these puzzles and their solutions. As well as that, there is a few platforming elements. So overall, this game does extremely well in its gameplay components, really refining the formula that had been established in previous installments, as it offers a revamped magic system, more enemy variety and enemies in general, new camera angles, and a fantastic conclusion in terms of gameplay and narrative to the story as a whole, which makes it the definitive game of the trilogy. So yes, you should absolutely buy God of War 3 in 2021 due to its stellar narrative and soundtrack, fantastic and intuitive gameplay, as well as how it was the culmination of the entirety of the trilogy. I'd also like to give the game a score in the subjective nature of myself, being a lucrative 8.5 out of 10. Anyway everyone, that's all from me for today's video. I'll see you all for tomorrow's video. Peace.